I want to address YouTuber, somewhat of an apologist, theologian, atheistic, agnostic, religious layman, influencer, Alex O'Connor. He makes a number of videos exploring faith, as he at one point, I believe, as well, along with a Christian roommate of his, had been somewhat interested in faith and whatever that might mean, because everyone has a different baseline or point of introduction. And he seems to be a rather reasonable man of a great degree of intellectual common sense. But it is interesting that we take more pause with individuals who either speak with an accent or use words that we think are too large for our vocabulary or beyond our comprehension or meaning. Thereby, we must deduce and conclude that that person is really smart, particularly if the accent is just right. And as most Brits do, they have a wonderfully polite manner. I'm sure that was the same in the transatlantic slave trade. It's nothing better than a polite master, a polite criminal before he kills you, kidnaps you, rapes you, or pillages your village. At least he did it holding a cup of tea and used the Queen's English, or whatever the case might be. We might conclude that it's easier to hear a man speaking in a language that we consider romantic or high-bred, intelligent, erudite personalities, whichever might be the case. Alex does check all those boxes. But in addition to that, I have discerned that he has a great deal of sincerity in his quest. I have not been able to detect any animosity or hidden agenda in Alex, though one may very well exist. I don't know him personally. But from what I view from others online, it seems that he does have a deep passion and interest, unlike Dawkins, who absolutely seems diabolically antithetical and quite radical and aggressive in his opposition to Christianity, though he does like the cultural aspect of it. You know, there's many people that dress up on Halloween. They don't really believe in those characters. They just like the celebration. Hence Dawkins. But in another sense, Alex comes across as someone deep down who's yearning to believe. Doesn't quite know what, not certain. He's looking for proof. Interesting. He's looking for proof. And what is proof and what is evidence? And to what degree are you satisfied another person doesn't need as much proof as you need, or any proof at all? They call it intuition, perhaps, Alex. Something intuitive. A lot of our science was based on that in its early stages. People just kind of believed something was there. They didn't know it was. They thought something was beyond the horizon. They had no proof of it. They just had an idea there's got to be more. And they invest millions and trillions of dollars in going to planets where there is no proof there is more. A lot of hypothesizing and theorizing. And you can come up with confirmation bias science, all kinds of different things to confirm or affirm your suspicions. And you can even have circumstantial evidence that can make an innocent man guilty or a guilty man innocent. Yeah. I think at the end of the day, it's all going to be deduced to some degree of biased belief. Many will tell you that. Oh, I've heard enough. Yeah, I want to hear more. No, I think he's guilty. No, I think that person is good. I don't think we need to do any more. And we've been proven wrong many times, haven't we? Alex does seem to have a sincere interest. But I believe his baseline is greatly flawed. People that grow up in a broken family tend to look at life and family as broken. People that grow up with a abusive father, a negligent mother, tend to have that view in its actually logical to do so, isn't it? After all, if your experience with cops has only been them beating you up and calling you the N-word, perhaps you think all cops are racist. That would be quite natural to think. Or women might think all men are dogs because, well, all of the men that they dealt with or have engaged with have been like dogs. They're only after one thing, to get in my pants. All men are dogs. All women are gold diggers. Well, it depends on the context in which you're saying that they all are wishing to find a man that can provide, or a man, kind of a innate instinct in the female to look for the bird that can protect and provide a good nest, the lion that can guard and keep the baby safe. There is something to be said of that, but we do give ourselves credit as humans that we are beyond just the baser animalistic instincts that we share with our other animal species on the planet. Yes, we may indeed be looking for someone that can provide, not necessarily a gold digger, though that they do exist, that in the interest that there is a higher responsibility. The lions aren't caring for the planet. They can't do as much damage as we can, so we have a higher responsibility and accountability to not just be governed by our instinct, but by our intellect and our reason, and dare I say it, by our spirituality. Now, I could go down the rabbit hole with so many different things that Alex and Jordan Peterson have said. In fact, the recent analysis that Alex did when Jordan was surrounded by some 20 or more atheists was quite disheartening and very sad to watch, because Jordan seemed to be quite ill prepared and overly emotional. Perhaps he was having a bad day, his medication, whatever he's taking. And maybe it was just a little too much for him. After all, Mr. Peterson is not resigned in his faith. He's still exploring it. And it's hard to put a baby in the middle of a pack of coyotes when he's not prepared and ready for it just as of yet. I wish I could speak to Mr. Peterson, because I think he's jumping out in the deep water too soon. He still is in his baby swim trunks. And he was surrounded by a lot of babies, children who seemed that they just wanted to have a figure to attack. I found it interesting, the atheist questioning the Christian about what God did with the Amalekites and the justification. Well, don't we have to agree that first there's a God? You're asking a question based on the fact that there is no God. Your question does not even exist in your paradigm. Why are you asking what kind of God would demand the murder of every animal and every person, every woman, every child? What kind of God? Well, first of all, the word God is not a personage. It's a generalization of an entity or a being. But which God? The Hindus have over a million. What God? Which God? That was never established. And why are you asking a question about God? You don't believe in God. Shouldn't you, atheists, be asking a question about humans, rocks, animals, and the like? Your life as an atheist and the life that you have lived and are choosing to live isn't based on anything about a God. Whatever God that is, it doesn't even matter. You don't even believe in the idea of God, except your New Age's higher power, higher energy, without any kind of personal attachment. But then again, everything is energy. You named your disease, and that can be reduced in a definition of energy. Radical cells gone awry and all kinds of different stuff. What about the dog, Foo-Foo, that little poodle that you've got dressed in a sweater? You gave it a name. Why? Why did you give it a name? Why did you give it a human name? Why do you anthropomorphize? It's kind of interesting. You have such contradictions. You name your food, you name the disease that's killing you, you name your enemy, you name everything. You even name stars. But when it comes to the idea of God, that's just higher power and energy. For those of you who actually believe in the idea of God. No name. You have a name. Why not just call you human? Or carbon, H2O, the elements that compose it, but you give it a name. And you like to give it a different name. Very few of you have 5 children, and you've all named everyone John or Janet. You distinguish every time you find anything. You have to give it a new name. It's called branding. Start a new company. Everybody's making the same burger, really, but you have to name it a different name. But your problem is with God. The only people that can have a problem with God are actually those that believe in a God or the God that they have ascribed to. But you atheists have no God. Well, in fact, you do. And you are religious by the sheer definition of the word religio in Latin. It's a system of belief that you govern your life by routinely. Whatever that is, and everybody is religious. But what do you believe? The problems that you're going to face in life, the problems you have faced in life, the reason why you are in life can be traced, Mr. Atheist, all back to a human being. It would seem to me your problems are with politicians who misappropriate your taxes or overtax you entirely, or your communist or fascist leaders, the mommy and the daddy that didn't raise you right, sent you off to boarding school, didn't parent you, or the ones that abused you. Or was it your mother and father? Were you a child of an orphanage, or were you a street kid, just kind of raised by your peers? You are a product of nature and nurture, but those who seem to have a problem with God keep forgetting that since there is no God, you are definitely directly going to be affected by and are a result of everything that a human does. Therefore, your angst and your questions should be directed in a humanistic framework to humans. And I'm sure you do acknowledge that all humans are real, that they exist in reality. Surely you agree to that, do you not? Humans do exist. And humans, like religion, might be Islamic or Hindu or Buddhist or Taoist, Confucius, all kinds of ancient belief systems. They have so many different sects of the sects: Presbyterian, Methodist, Episcopalian, Pentecostal, Apostolic, Lutheran, I don't know, Sunni or Shiite, Catholic, Greek, Orthodox, ultra-Orthodox, obviously, Jewish, Kabbalist. Which of the humans do you ascribe to? The African, the Viking, the Danish, the Dutch? Which ones? The Polynesians, the Germans, the Russians, the Slavics? Which human religion do you ascribe to? Which people group do you ascribe to? Which culture do you adopt and you like? Which one do you hate? Well, that too is religion. And most of what's going on, whether it's a progressive, a liberal, a conservative, a federalist, a communist, I don't know, the list goes on, and new ones are being invented. An egalitarian, there's too much. Your problem, Mr. Atheist, is human. And rather you want to spend all your time trying to prove or disprove God, which for some reason I cannot understand why. After all, there are people that are vegetarians, and I'm not giving them a long conversation why they shouldn't or should not be a vegetarian. Some like meat, some don't. Some like chicken, some don't. There are certain vegetables that some people eat. You have a preference, right? Your identity. Wake up in the morning, your truth, his truth, my truth. I can't bat you over the head because you don't like lamb, and some of you don't like liver. I definitely don't like blood sausage. And there are different things that people like. And they have the freedom to protest, to revolt, to eat or not to eat. You even have the choice to live or not to live, to be or not to be. You can disagree, regardless of the facts, based on your own emotional disposition. But your problem is with human. And yet you're in such a contradiction because when it comes to human relationship, it would seem to me that most of you, oddly enough, do not lobotomize your lovers and your friends the way you do the idea or concept of a sentient being, of God. You just kind of accept it. And most of you get thrown over the bus. That's why you probably have not had one boyfriend or girlfriend, one husband or wife. You have had many and several. You just can't seem to settle and figure out how to get the right one. And you've been dumped, so they didn't like you either. But did you throw away all of the human race because of what that girl did or that guy did? Did you throw away all cops because of what one did? Are all politicians liars, or just most of them? You spend an awful lot of time analyzing the idea, the belief of God, the existence of God, and the character of a God which you don't believe in. I can't get over that one. So much hostility, and your hostility has nothing to do with God. It has a lot to do with how you were raised. You know, the majority of your problems you're going to be able to trace back to the origin of you, the genetic material, epigenetically and direct genetically, the nature, the nurture, the environment in which you were raised, where you were first formed. Most of you don't realize that. Your first 4 or 5 years is what locks you in. Everything else kind of becomes kind of traumatic, and you're going to be circling and adapting your entire life to those first 4 or 5 years of what you absorbed and what was done to you. You'll spend the rest of your life becoming the best of you or the worst of you, or trying to fix all of you. Do you give up on life? Many of you do. And you're looking in the wrong places to fill the empty spaces because you haven't quite identified where the problem is. You're pointing to areas that are easy to attack. A man like Jordan Peterson, why would you attack him? Who is he? He isn't your father. He's not the reason why you are. And your confusion and your chaos and your dilemma does not reside with him, nor a pastor, a priest, a pope, a imam, a guru, a rabbi. No. No, you'd have to trace much deeper than that. And your confirmation bias will continue to allow you to distract and avoid where the real problem is and what the real question is. And the question isn't the existence of God, it's the existence of you. And wrestling with and wrangling with the reality of that and the failed propositions that do not satisfy your question, your query. There's enough science out there that it should have satisfied you enough that you don't even need to ask which God, if God at all. It is so easy to see who all of you really are because I'm looking at you intently without bias, more with pity, empathy, sadness. And in your eyes, you can see that you're not looking within, you're looking without. You spend most of your time thinking the answer is over there, over here, that person, this person, that idea, that science, that academic. And you're the most detached from your natural organic self as you were created to be, or in your case, evolved to be. And everything about you tells on you. But you are oblivious to it. I am sad for you. It won't matter how many books you read. It won't matter how many seminars you attend. It won't matter how many degrees are behind or in front of your name. It won't matter how many songs you sing, how much emotion you display. Your soul is deeper than your emotion and is broader than what is visible and tangible. Your mind occupies a space and a place that is beyond the framework of any book. After all, which came first, God or the book? Your library, Harvard or Yale, or information. Simply canonized and put in a bibliothèque, put in a place, and then you have to pay for it. You are so detached. Jordan is uncertain. He's still searching. The best thing that Mr. Peterson could have done was to sit down when he came to faith and been quiet for a while. But it's difficult for a man who already feels accomplished and achieved in one area to think now he's accomplished, achieved in every area. You come to faith as a baby, but then you present yourself like an adult. You're still in diapers and on training wheels, Mr. Peterson. You don't need to work out everything in front of everybody. Sometimes it's best to brush your teeth and wipe your butt privately and then put on the suit and come out. I really don't want to see you on the toilet, and I don't want to see you in the shower. I don't want to watch you floss the food in between your teeth. Why don't you do that privately? Work that out. And when you've come to some sort of agreement or conclusion like you would in the negotiations, let's now meet. If we have some baseline of conviction, we can work from that. And I am sorry for you, Mr. Peterson. I'm sorry for you, Mr. O'Connor, Mr. Dawkins. So many of you have been disenchanted because you started the wrong way, or you had the wrong way, or the wrong person. You've put faith outside of your culture and outside of your being. You think it's only in the framework of a religion, a book, or an idea of man. You can't even see it in nature. And I'm not talking about just animism and anything of this nature. I'm not one of those. I think that there are ways that we can define and personify faith, and all of the above can contribute to it, but none of the above is the entirety of it. I read the Torah and even the letters, which is more properly to be addressed as the New Testament, the letters and the writings. But before any of that, I read the human. The greatest evidence of that which you think this says was created was the created thing. The product speaks for itself. If I want to know about a designer, I might want to look at what he's made. Most of you wear designer clothes. You eat designer food. You've never met the chef and never met Prada's owner or Mr. Louis Vuitton. You've never met Calvin Klein. You've driven a Ford like I do. Never met Ford. Perhaps never met God. I've seen his handiwork. It's what he's made. I did say he. Don't think I missed that you were thinking about that. May I read to you something I think is so appropriate for so many of you, particularly you, Mr. O'Connor. Your interview that you did with Chatgpt. Well, Alex, you are amazing to watch. I do enjoy listening to you. I really do. I love your mind. Quite respectful you were to that computer. I wonder who created it. It seemed to your surprise, no doubt, came to a conclusion that you were probably a little rebuffed about. That it had concluded in the collection, the coalescing, the congregation of all of its information, that it can conclude after looking at everything so quickly, so succinctly. Well, there must be a God. Yes, there is. The idea is that there's more evidence to prove that there is one than there's not. Not that the preponderance of evidence is really a determining factor, though it can be in any conclusion that can be drawn. We understand that infinitesimally incremental difference makes all the difference. So, Chatgpt could be wrong, but I guess it could be right. Interesting. It came up with a different conclusion, being able to process more of the information than you. But it came up with a different conclusion. a different perspective, perhaps something you missed or something that as an organic creature you can't see, but then what is it? Programmed. I'm surprised it was given an accent in a female voice out of the entire people on the planet. Interesting. And it seemed to not be a voice of a person of color either, unless that person of color was raised in the British Empire, the Nigerian. That sounds awfully British. I digress, don't I? Alex, Ishayahu, the Torah. Isaiah in your English, the Queen's English, not King James. Let's read the whole chapter. But I think I'm going to start at verse 9. Follow me, Alex. Isaiah 44, verse 9. And idol makers, all idol makers, amount to nothing. Before that he says, there is no other God. I know not one, not none, no other rock like our God. But all idol makers, idol makers is the equivalent of anything that you make now, right? Chatgpt, AI, cyborgs, robots, something idol, something that you are crafting by your own hand, amount to nothing. You build statues that you bow down to. You craft it with marble and stone and chisel and saw, brick, and you bake it, shape it, form it in a clay pot, paint it, and call it a god. Interesting. Bowing down before something that you made. Interesting. All idol makers. I want you to jump with me, Alex, to Romans. Would you do that? The book of Romans, chapter 9. Would you read with me, please? Romans, Paul's letter to a congregation in Rome. That's what it's called. We ascribe this to the writings of Paul. There is some evidence that at least the letters of Paul are more probable than not, whereas the Gospels, we're not certain who wrote those. So in ancient time, they would use other authors to ascribe a name to give it gravity. Romans chapter 9, verse 19. But you will say to me, why does he still find fault with us after all who resist his will? Who are you? A mere human? Perhaps it'd be better to give some context before that. It seems like I'm coming in the middle of a conversation, doesn't it? So forgive me for that. Let's start a little earlier in the verse. Let's start around verse 6. But the present condition of Israel does not mean that the word of God has failed. For not everyone from Israel is truly part of Israel. Well, every Israeli from the tribes of Israel, Jacob, Yaakov, there are 12 sons, Judah is what you mean when you say, are you Jewish? That means, are you from the tribe of Judah? People forget that too. Not all of the people of the book are Judeans, meaning technically they're not all Jewish. Israel is truly part. Indeed, not all the descendants are seed of Abraham. Rather, what is to be called your seed? Seed will be in Ishak, in other words, Isaac. It is not the physical children who are children of God, but the children the promise refers to who are considered the seed. For this is what the promise said. At this time set, I will come, and Sarah will have a son. And even more to the point in this case of Rivkah, for both her children were conceived in a single act with Isaac, our father. And before they were born, before they had done anything at all, either good or bad, remember, good is purpose, fulfilling a purpose. so that God's plan might remain a matter of his sovereign choice. Like that word, sovereign? You should, you're British. Not dependent on what they did, but on God. Every tool, it's not the tool, it's the one that made it. Who does the calling? You determine the use of the hammer. You determine the use of that kitchen knife. You determine the use of that camera, that light. It was said to her, the older will serve the younger. This accords with where it is written, Yaakov I love, but Esau I've hated. Meaning, this is the one I accepted, this is the one I rejected. Hate is not an emotional determining word here. So, are we to say it is unjust for God to do this? Heaven forbid. Don't you get to choose which cup to use, which tool to use, which vitamin to buy over another vitamin? Not to mention the things that you actually create or the things that you decide to actually promote. But you will say to me, then why does he still find fault with us? After all, who resists his will? Who are you? You are a mere human being. To talk back to God? Will what is formed say to him who formed it, why did you make me this way? Does that sound like your mother and father? You will because I told you so. As long as I'm paying the bills, you're under this house. As long as you're under this house, you obey my rules. My father used to say, I brought you in this world, I'll take you out. You know, there's people, Daddy, that can take me out of this world that didn't bring me into this world. But indeed, you are right. In other words, I'm exerting my authority. You exist, son, because of me. You are cared for because of me. I do get to set those rules. To the victor, go the spoils. After all, I hate to see you soccer fans, what you call in Europe football, see your team, Manchester United, not get the World Cup after it wins the winning shot and they give it to somebody else. I have that right. I'm in authority. I can choose to use you or not to use you. I can promote you or not to promote you. It's my company. Rights of privacy. So, Alex, can the thing that was formed say to him who formed it, why did you make me this way? Did Chatgpt ask you, or does it even recognize you as a being associated with the type of being that created it? Are you a part of that plural creative Elohim of technocrats, technogods, programmers and coders? You created it, and you asked the thing that you created a question. You, as in your being, your type of species, made that. You create. What's the difference between you interviewing Chatgpt and seeking query and questions and resolution from a computer than the people with the oracles of ancient Greek or in Iran or Samaria or Egypt? They go and they bow down in front of another thing they've chiseled. Is not the computer, the AI, the chat, something you've chiseled. Now you've chiseled something, then ask it to serve you, to do something, tell it what to do. It's a robot. You created it. You do it. Are you a servant to your technology, to AI, or is it a servant to you? Did you create it to perform a duty, a task, and a purpose as designated and designed by your will? Or did it just evolve into being? I'm not talking about the process and mechanism of the methodology of technology, but the actual evolution of it, randomly, arbitrarily, without any input at all, with a designer in mind. Or has the potter no right to make from a given lump of clay this pot for an honorable use and that one for a dishonorable? I've made challah bread every Kiddush for our Shabbat. Sometimes I have to throw it away. It's a dishonorable challah. It didn't come out right. I spilled something. Something was spoiled, whatever. Don't I have that right to throw it out and make it over again? It's mine. I have a right to build a chair and throw it out because I didn't get the measurements right. It's mine. You're going to condemn me because I decided what to destroy and what to keep, what to put on a shelf and honor it as a relic, to put it in a case because it's the thing of the greatest honor, and another one is in the attic or in the basement or in the trash. Alex, you should be considering some things more deeply, my friend. Now, what God, even though he was quite willing to demonstrate his anger and make known his power, patiently put up with people who deserved punishment and were ripe for destruction? There were many people that deserve punishment, and the court has that every day. And it arbitrarily, of its own volition, by its own measure of grace and mercy, decides within the parameters of the law in which it is under or has written how much grace it will give. It can give you 10 years or 1 year or no years at all. It can totally exonerate you. It can throw your case out and dismiss it. Or it can elevate it, escalate it to a harsher sentence. It is at the discretion of that thing, that system in which has set the parameters and the framework by which it discerns, whether you like it or not. Each country has its own law and framework. It has decided what that measure is. You go to a restaurant, some you can go in without a shirt, others you cannot. Some you can't even go in unless you have a jacket on. They have that right. Well, I didn't have to do that over there. Well, you're not over there, you're over here. This is my house. I set the rules. You set the rules for yourself if you are independent of everyone else. But you obey the rules uniformly as you conform to every parking lot that you go to a shopping center, every line when you're in a movie theater or an opera house or wherever you go. You have a ticket that designates your seat on an airplane and your behavior. And it's going to be enforced and reinforced by those that manage the airline, particularly the flight attendants. We have law enforcers to assure for the cohesion and peaceful order so that every individual can enjoy collectively without any one individual destroying the cohesion collectively of the group. But the owner has a right that no one has. It can throw it away, it can destroy it, it can do whatever. What if he did this in order to make known the riches of his glory to those who are the objects of his mercy? Mercy isn't about you. It's about the one who's dispensing it. Whom he prepared in advance for glory. That is not to us, whom he called not only from among the Jews, but also from among the Gentiles, the Goyim. As indeed he says in Hosea the prophet, those who were not my people, I will call my people. Her who was not loved, I will call loved. And in the very place where they were told, you are not my people, there they will be called sons of the living God. The Maker can do that. The queen can decide who she wants to deputize and knight at her own discretion. You don't have to agree who got promoted in the company. You may think you deserved it. You didn't, according to the owner. You are not the owner. Chatgpt. Interesting. An idol maker amounts to nothing. You made the idol. Their precious productions profit no one. They're witnesses to their own shame. Neither see nor understand. Who would fashion a god or cast an image that profits no one anything? Well, Catholicism did that a lot, didn't they? Well, Catholicism is really Roman polytheism anyway. Catholica. It was simply the integration, the homogenation of pagan polytheistic beliefs into a monotheistic idea. But none than anyone else, the people who made them, let them all be assembled. Let them stand up. Let them fear and be ashamed together. A blacksmith makes a tool over burning coals. With his strong arm, he shapes it with hammers. But when he gets hungry, his strength fails. If he doesn't drink water, he growls. Well, that's called hangry. He grows tired, Alex. A carpenter takes his measurements, sketches the shape with a stylus, places the wood, checks it with calipers, and carves it into the shape of a man. And since it is honored like a man. Of course, it has to live in a house. He goes to chop down cedars. He takes an evergreen and an oak. He especially tends one tree in the forest, plants a pine for the rain to nourish. In time, when it's ready for use as fuel, he takes some of it to keep himself warm, burns some more to bake bread. Then he makes a god and worships it, the same piece of wood. Carves it into an idol, and then falls down before it. So half of it he burns in the fire. One, he cuts it down a little for a house, and another piece of the wood, a portion of it, goes to make an idol that I pray to and bow to and beg for mercy and grace. With the half, he roasts meat and eats his fill. He warms himself, he says. Oh, it feels so good, getting warm while watching the flames. With the rest of the log, he makes a god, a carved image, falls down before it, worships it, prays to it. Save me, he says, for you are my God. I don't, forgive me, but I just ate half of you, and I used the other part for my house and the other part for heat to warm. But this part of you, now pray. How foolish. Such people know nothing and they understand nothing. Their eyes are sealed shut so that they can't see. Their hearts too, so that they can't understand. Not one thinks to himself or has the knowledge of discernment to say, wait a second, I burned half of it in the fire. I baked bread on it for cold, roasted meat and ate it. Now, should I make the rest of it an abomination? Should I prostrate myself to a tree trunk? To a piece of metal? A cross? A statue of Mother Guadalupe? Or an eagle or an animal? Should I? Yet I am relying on ashes. A deceived heart has led him astray. So that now he won't save himself. Just won't say this thing that he's made in his hand is a fraud. What have you made by your own intellectual descent into a fraud? A system of beliefs of self-deception, manipulation, and disillusionment. In many cases, you are an intellectual illusionist, self-prescribed. But what I cannot understand is how an intelligent being could be that stupid. And yet intelligent people commit crimes every day. In fact, some of the most intelligent people commit the most heinous of crimes. Can't see the forest for the trees, Alex? Can't see the complex in the simple? Or the simple truths in the complex? And I believe there's only maybe one of two, maybe one of three reasons why. And I have to go back to the nurture in nature as the most fundamental, probable, Occam's razor answer, all things being equal. I want to know how you were raised. It's what has given us the man or the woman that all of you are today, as am I. After all, you had nothing to do with being raised by a parent that abused you and molested you. You have nothing to do with being raised. You had no choice in the matter of being raised into a home when you came into this world of someone that had all the money in the world and someone that didn't. But what we all are given equally is our ability to react to and respond to whatever environment and situation that we are in, which is why you see in the human species that ability, that a person can actually, by exception, not the rule, by the way, be raised in the most adverse conditions. They have the law of averages against them, of course. But by exception, many of them can come and become the most productive society member there is. There are others who come from the most privileged and honored disposition, materially speaking, and become Jack the Ripper or murderers of their own family. Whatever lot in life we've been given, we each have an opportunity to honor it or dishonor it, to do better than what we were given, or to do worse. But faith exceeds academic writings. These tools can come alongside and assist and help us in our journey to each individually come to a point of clarity and peace to whatever degree. $60,000 is enough. Someone else says, well, no, it's $400,000. That's the measure. Another one, no, it's all I can get, all I can, and can all I get. Others require so much, high maintenance for happiness. It's not necessary, but in their mind. And others, the smallest amount. I don't need much. And truth be said, you don't need much, no matter who you are. You've just have been deceived into the satiety of your life's needs, satisfactions. Less is more, and more can be less. You know, most of the people that you read about in the scripture, in the writings from the what you call the Old Testament, I don't like that word. It connotes by the word old, obsolete, antiquated, and out of date. It's not old. Man has always been mankind since the beginning of time, since the first writings on the walls. Murder, racism, prejudice, hate has always existed. It's not going anywhere. Many things have to be experienced and engaged upon. Just like a relationship. You're going to have to experience it. And like a sheltered dog who's been abused, misused, ill-informed, brainwashed, trained in the worst kind of way, it's not something you raise to believe. It's something you have to unlearn to teach them something that they should have learned, but they've already been fashioned and formed. A fresh student who's ready to learn so much better than someone who thought they knew. Their belief has already been colored by their experience and what type of experience that they have. So they come up with such a negative view, such a sarcastic view, such a dark view, a dystopian view, because they didn't know anything else, so that's all they saw, or that's what they experienced. It's circumstantial. Won't be able to resolve that for you. But if you can acknowledge it and recognize it in your own life and look at yourself, it might help you see more clearly the thing that you're so certain about that you dismiss. Why, like an alcoholic, you do what you do. It is so ingrained in you like PTSD, and you can't help yourself. And I'm sad and sorry for most of you who've had that happen and have not had the tools, nor the leader or the guidance or the mentor to teach you how. And perhaps your bitterness has kept you from hearing how in your own spirit, because you're living as a victim and you're so certain of things that you should not be. You need to breathe slowly, sit down, rethink, reconstitute yourselves. You don't have to persuade anyone. God will reveal himself to you, to the one who has an ear to hear. He's not just talking because you're asking a question. He's not on your leash. He doesn't jump at your behest. He loves you like a father. He's not a tyrant. But he's not going to chase you down. Love works best when you come on your own willingly. And when people usually know that you want to hear them, that you're listening, they'll talk. But why would anyone share anything with you when you've already determined? You've already came in with an agenda to hate and to say no and not to listen. You're already settled on your idea. There's more proof in my mind, and it's again a separate conversation, Alex, why God is and how God is, and that God is at all. And I have studied various disciplines of science, and I have found them intriguing and wonderful to explore. Like little children who will give you things that they have drawn on a piece of paper. It's not a Rembrandt, but I can appreciate the simplicity and the lack of skill in it. I know that one day that they will grow to do more if they continue along that trajectory. Some do, some don't. But in any event, no matter what the child applies themselves to, they'll grow to do more. And so you accept what they present to you at the moment. Because like a child, you would assume that it's with sincerity, though its skill is somewhat lacking. That the brain is still developing. And many of you have come to faith. Your brain is still developing. And for some, it's going to take longer. For some, it's never going to occur. But the possibility is there for you. If you're in the right spirit, with the right pursuit, don't lobotomize God. Doesn't want to be analyzed, wants to be experienced. You'll learn more. Sometimes they tell you in interrogation, you learn more when you let the perpetrator talk. Forcefully asking a question. Let people talk and they'll answer a lot of the questions you have before you even ask them. People will reveal themselves. Let them talk. And then watch them. Watch what their life produces. Even if you can't understand how they did it or you don't agree how they're doing it. But that dinner sure tasted good. I don't know what you did or how you did it. I just know that's the best potato salad I ever had in my life. That's the best bread I've ever tasted. What did you do? Oh, nothing. Enjoy the Lord without having to lobotomize him. Enjoy each other the same way. I hope you can find peace. And perhaps you have. You're completely subtle in your ambiguity, if I might characterize it as that, or your disdain, if I might characterize that as well, or your resolute position, unlike Jordan Peterson, who seems to still be working it out. There is no God, according to Alex O'Connor and Dawkins, Richard. There is no God. Well, for you there isn't, and that's fine. But there are still those who believe in a God they crafted and sculpted from a piece of wood or stone. And then there are other of us. He's not a God that we crafted or programmed or coded into a computer system. called it AI or Chatgpt. We didn't need microchip processors and copper wire. We are tuned, Alex, to the ether. Didn't have to craft it, didn't have to burn it on a solder iron, didn't have to put it on a circuit board. No, not for us. Our technology is beyond that. We're able to tune in a direct connection without Starlink, but a link to the one who created the stars. And just like many don't understand coding and programming, I don't believe many of you understand this. Good day.